Good evening. We're back again tonight on the Lore Masters channel with another story about the end time. And tonight we're featuring Monty and Freddie from the Five Nights at Freddy characters. And we're continuing to see how they're dealing with this end time and the vanishing of the children. And so let's begin. Monty leaned against the doorframe of the Pizzaplex's main lobby, his arms crossed, his eyes fixed on Freddie. The bear was hunched over a pile of freshly polished chairs, scrubbing them with almost mechanical precision. Freddie worked like clockwork these days, keeping up a routine as if the kids would burst through the doors at any moment. Monty hated seeing him like this, so hollow, so desperate to cling to normalcy. Freddie was everything to him. Monty didn't know when it had happened, but somewhere between the countless performances and shared moments in the backstage break rooms, he'd come to love the bear. Freddie's optimism had always been a light in their strange, manufactured lives, but now that light was dimmed and Monty didn't know how to reignite it. Monty tore his gaze away and looked down the hall toward the daycare. He hadn't seen sun and moon in months, not since they'd retreated into the depths of the daycare after the incident. Whatever they had witnessed when the children all fell, it had shattered them. He remembered the first time he had ventured to check on them. The daycare was silent, the bright murals smeared with dust and decay. Sun had slumped in a corner, his eyes drooping like wilting flowers, while Moon lingered in the shadows, murmuring to himself. They didn't speak to anyone anymore. Monty couldn't even imagine what they'd gone through, walking into the daycare, expecting the usual chaos, only to find death. Monty clenched his fist, trying to shove the thought away. Freddie glanced up, catching Monty's eye. "Everything okay, Monty?" he asked, his voice warm but tired. Monty hesitated. The words he wanted to say stuck in his throat. "Yeah, just thinking, I guess," he replied, trying to keep his tone casual. He wanted to tell Freddie everything, that he loved him, that even if the world was dead and empty, Freddie would always have him. But he couldn't bring himself to say it, not yet. Instead, Monty shifted his focus to his experiments. In secret, he'd been trying to grow plants. It had started in the first few months after the incident when the realization that the world was dying had begun to sink in. Every attempt had failed so far. Seeds that sprouted withered within days. The soil seemed poisoned, lifeless. It was like some sick cosmic joke. Monty walked over to the computer in his room, the screen glowing faintly in the darkness. During his free time, which was all he had now, he scoured old news archives and forums, searching for information about other animatronics across the country. He knew Texas had the most animatronics of any state, but what did that even mean anymore? Was this still Texas? Was there even a country left? Monty sighed, leaning back in his chair. He had read about animatronics in other places, theme parks, arcades, roadside attractions. Were they dealing with the same nightmare? Did they even know? He glanced back at the experiments on his desk. Rows of small plants, pots filled with soil, each labeled with the date he had planted the seeds. Most were empty now, the plants long dead, but one pot held a tiny green sprout, barely clinging to life. Monty reached out, gently touching the edge of the pot. "Come on, little guy," he muttered under his breath. "If you can grow, maybe there's still hope." Hope was all he had left, and even that was wearing thin. But as long as Freddie was here, as long as that tiny sprout kept fighting to live, Monty would keep going, because even in a world that was dead and empty, there were still things worth fighting for. Well, that's the end of our story tonight, and you'll want to tune in for the next segment to see what happens to the little lively plant and see if it lives and what it means to the animatronic characters. So, like I said, that's it for tonight, and you'll be sure to watch again and like and subscribe and stay tuned for more. Good night.